Diabetic legend. The resub LL Cool J. Thanks to the resub Falcon Robot and gift sub Burner.
What's up, guys?
Resub
My name
Sekazin.
is Jake. Welcome to Abandoned, episode 31. This, of course, is the show where we talk about some of the most interesting abandoned places in the world. Vancouver is one
Nice
of
with Prime
Canada's
Baconator.
largest cities. A city known for its beautiful views, extravagant condos, luscious parks, being a popular cruise destination, and much, much more. The city is
There's
also
resub
known for
130,
its hosting of
Subaru,
Expo
and
86,
Prime George.
a World's Fair event which was the last to be held in North
Resub
America.
Jader.
On the other side of the
And
city,
Biggest.
where cruise ships call their home port, down the river about 6 miles, is a relic from the past Expo. A fast food restaurant like no other, Friendship 500, or better known as the McBarge.
Oh,
Way back
she's
in
beautiful.
1985, Vancouver was preparing for Expo 86, the World Exposition on Transportation
There's a Prime
and
Ace Wing.
Communication. The World's Fair was set to
Resub
take
Commander.
160 acres of land, and like all World Fair events, multiple different pavilions and buildings would be constructed on the land. McDonald's was set to have several of their restaurants in the
Whoa.
expo, specifically 5 of them.
McDonald's
Most of
World,
them being
eh?
the basic generic restaurants. However, McDonald's had one planned like no other. Designed by naval architecture firm Robert Allen, McDonald's was
resub,
building
Libya.
a 2-story floating restaurant
You're doing
called
alright.
Friendship 500. The reason why it was given the 500 name was because it was the 500th McDonald's restaurant in Canada. Though technically it wasn't the only floating McDonald's in the world. Even though dates are a little skewed, sometime in the early 80s, the fast food chain opened a riverboat restaurant in St. Louis. And sometime in the early 2000s it later closed. With $12 million collectively being spent on all 5 new restaurants, Friendship 500 was launched and taken upriver to serve guests.
I wish they
at
could do some
Expo
Bioshock
86.
Infinite
It was
shit.
rumored, though, that the final cost of
Make a
Friendship
flying
500
McDonald's.
was around $8 million. Along with the fair, the McBarge opened in May of 1986.
Oh, hey, Ronald.
It was 187 feet long, featured 2
Thanks to resub
stories
Trap,
of dining
Neo,
areas,
and
and was
Equinoxa.
able to seat around 390
No,
people.
paintballs didn't hurt
Friendship
at all.
500 was located on the far west portion of the fair, anchored adjacent to the Malaysia Pavilion. People absolutely loved the restaurant, and collectively throughout all the other McDonald's restaurants in the expo,
It looks pretty
was one of the
cool.
most popular and profitable. In fact, throughout the entire fair's run in 1986, the restaurant had sold more hamburgers than any other McDonald's restaurant in British Columbia. This was probably
Wow.
because of the design to this floating restaurant just being so unique.
Thanks
Its
to resub
early to
Melty
mid-80s modern design was
Hauha.
eye-catching enough, along with the fact that it was on the water. The interior was also something to be desired, as it was
What?
a
It
new
looks like
look
shit.
for the fast food chain, with wood floors, framed art,
Looks
and
like-
plants throughout. It was McDonald's.
It looks like the Krusty
mid-80s
Krab.
campaign to enhance their image as
Doesn't
their
look that
restaurants
cool.
being a more enjoyable quality experience. And this proved to be very effective, as Friendship 500 was extremely popular in the fair. As British Columbia was entering its winter season, the official closure of Expo 86 had come on October 13, 1986. Now, the fact that the McDonald's restaurant was floating wasn't just a gimmick. The idea behind it was actually pretty clever. Once the fair ran through its 6-month lifespan, the barge could just be moved to another destination. This made the initial investment of the alleged $8 million much more justified. However, as Expo 86 was
Hey,
due
is
to
that
wrap
Epcot?
up, the McBarge was still trying to locate a spot for it to travel to. And as 1987 came in, Friendship 500 continued
I have
to
not
anchor
watched the
in its
tag
original
championship
spot
this year.
closed. Even though McDonald's had negotiated a 40-year lease,
Thanks,
Vancouver
resub Poe.
City Council denied McDonald's request to continue operating post-Expo 86. McDonald's continued to search for new potential places to dock the barge, however to no avail. As all of their proposals were turned down, the barge continued to sit in the former Expo 86 location for another 4 years. Keeping the barge
What a
there
shame.
closed cost the company around $150,000.
So many
a year
hamburgers were
just in
sold there,
maintenance
and now look at 'em.
expenses. The former fairgrounds land was eventually sold to developers, and of course, they wanted the barge gone.
Thanks,
So in
Resub
July
Rafferty.
of 1991, McDonald's had given up fighting for the future of the barge, and now had to find a place to dock it while it was in limbo. So Friendship 500 was taken up and around Vancouver, down the river, and anchored offshore in the Burrard Inlet. Anchored only 7 miles from its original dock, resting about 200 feet offshore of an oil
Thanks for
refinery.
resub,
The
Megan.
187-foot-long restaurant was left floating there indefinitely and abandoned. Despite the rapid deterioration of Friendship 500,
Who
it
are
was
these
still
two?
considered to be an asset and was soon
Mafia
sold from
members or something?
McDonald's to several
What is
new
this?
owners. Despite this, though, the vessel remained untouched and abandoned for years. Other than the removal of the interior furniture and some fixtures, the interior of the restaurant remained untouched. It wasn't until
Good paint, though.
2003 when Marvel and New Line Cinema had
Oh.
rented the barge as a filming location
Thanks
for
for
their
resub, Megan,
upcoming
and the
film,
10 gift
Blade
subs.
Trinity.
The Night Stalker's headquarters
Bay
was
Royce?
this barge that was a restaurant for.
I hope I didn't fuck up your name, but thank you for the 10 gift subs, Bay.
Vancouver for years, and I got to thinking, what if we dragged this barge into port and turned it into our Night Stalker's lair? And it's just a shell with windows, and we're putting in all the technology, all the weapons, the armory, everything the Night Stalkers do to slay vampires.
The
Yeah, I've
movie
never
was
seen Blade
released in
Trinity.
December of 2004, and while I've never
I
seen
know that's
it,
Jessica
from what
Biel,
I've
though.
heard, it wasn't really that great. Not much of the barge was changed for the filming, however some past relics from the former McDonald's were obviously taken out, and some walls were repainted. The exterior remained mostly the same, and by 2004, the McBarge had returned to its original
Oh, like
anchored spot
Beyonce
in
with an
Burrard
R.
Inlet. The former restaurant was once again left
Beyonce?
abandoned, with the future still unknown.
Well, thanks
It
for 10
wasn't
gift
until
subs. And a gift sub,
2009 when the
Tim.
man who bought the McBarge back in 1999, Howard Meekin, had big and expensive plans for the former restaurant. The plan for Friendship 500's future was to bring it into an extensive rehabilitation and dock it in a town called Mission, British Columbia. It's about 40 miles from Vancouver, and part of the development was to make it the centerpiece of a $10 million floating complex. Docks
Why?
would wrap around the base of Friendship 500 with light commercial and various food offerings inside, including a high-quality restaurant. It would have been called Sturgeon's on the Fraser, named after the river it was on. As 2010 came in though, the proposal was still awaiting approval by City Council, and soon after, the concept was rejected on grounds that float planes would produce too much noise. So once
haven't
again,
seen
hope
Black
for
Widow
the
yet, it's not
McBarge
out
to
yet.
ever be used
Thanks for
again
resub, Kilt.
was kinda low. By 2011, Friendship 500 was renamed to Seabourn 2 and listed for sale on PacificBoatBrokers.com
Damn.
for $680,000.
What a
However,
bargain.
With no sale, the barge continued to float abandoned in the same place it has for the majority of its life. With multiple broken windows and exterior doors even being left open, the immense amount of moisture inside the structure had been taking its toll on the walls and floors.
Thanks for resub, 2
Mold
wavy.
and moss had been thriving on the former restaurant, and vandalism was becoming a problem. The interior had its copper and valuables stripped from what was left, and kids started tagging the inside and outside.
Oh
of the
no.
barge. Every
Have
once
some
in a while,
respect.
Some measures would be taken
Oh,
to prevent
man.
this, with boards covering the broken windows, as well as fences with barbed wire on them being placed on easily accessible spots on the barge. As a few years passed,
Thanks for
this
resub,
didn't really
Tyrese.
stop much though, as Friendship 500 was becoming well known as a local eyesore. And as more time passed, concerns began to arise on the possibility of the barge even sinking. By 2013, the entire structure was listing. However, the barge's owner claimed that Friendship 500 was built to last 90 years, and that it had multiple watertight compartments.
Yeah, I'm sure it's
Finally,
fine.
News broke in 2015 that the McBarge would see a future use.
Whoa.
Despite its extremely run-down appearance, the dream Howard Meekin had to see McBarge in use once again never left him. The plan was, by late 2015, the barge would be moved up to a maintenance dock in
Thanks for resub,
Maple Ridge,
Zionos.
British Columbia. The barge would then undergo a $4 million renovation.
What a
for an
waste of
unknown
money.
purpose.
Holy shit.
In late 2015, the exterior was majorly cleaned up with a fresh coat of paint over the massive graffiti and white boards over the broken windows. And as promised, on December 22nd, 2015, 2 tugboats took Friendship 500
McBarge,
52
let's
mile
go.
journey through and out of Burrard Inlet, around Vancouver, and down through the Fraser River to its new destination. The new purpose of the barge, though, remained unknown, as Howard had signed a non-disclosure agreement.
Exit Prime.
The only
Hush.
information the public was given about
The
the
resub
project
Zionos.
was that it would be ready by 2016, but they never met that deadline.
No,
So what is the
McBarge.
status
God,
of it
why?
now? Well, as early Q2 of 2017, Friendship 500 is still docked for renovations.
Lazy Tier 1
Most of
Gotez
the
and the
interior
Prime
has been
Fleet.
gutted, but work seems slow overall. I actually have talked to an individual who is involved with the renovation, and confirmed to me that the project is still waiting for the necessary funds. As for the original Expo 86 point that
Is there some
McBarge was
caboose?
docked in, well, since 1991, the land has now become a mixture of parkland and condominiums. I mean, of course, it's Vancouver. McBarge was an icon of Expo 86. It was loved by
And it's an
thousands for
icon
its
now.
unique features and forward-thinking design.
We never forgot the
It's been
McBarge.
28 years abandoned, 24 of which in the Burrard Inlet, aimlessly floating with no real future. Thankfully, a plan had been set to have this historical, unique icon saved. It's pretty rare to see something that old and deteriorate
Thanks
to
to
the
Prime
point it was
Sturbin.
at and still be saved. Even though the future seems unknown for us, I truly believe the man behind its future really does care about preserving this icon. Maybe it'll be a museum for Expo 86, or maybe
Thanks to
it will
Prime
return
Wiki.
to a restaurant. Who knows? Maybe
Look up
it'll
how
be
it's
a ball
doing
pit.
today.
A ball pit.
You want it to be a big floating ball pit.
Yeah.
Let's see. The abandoned McBarge boat. Well, it seems like it's still abandoned as of 6 months ago. Abandoned due to flesh-eating bacterial infections. Wow. Exploring an abandoned indoor water park. Wowee. Have you seen The Dead Shark? Sounds very